topic. This topic is about 1 year to live and the impacts of 1 year to live retreat. And we're going to talk about it from probably a way you've never heard before. We're going to look at it from the impact of personal life, guys, on your church life. And we're going to talk about it from your business life. So let's do a quick introduction. My name is Steve Brown. I've been involved with Lutheran Men Mission for 13 years now. Most of it due to my involvement in 1 year to live retreats. Scotty and I were just talking. We started this back in 2005, we thought.
4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, about 13 years ago. We got involved with the retreat. Thank you, Colorado guys, if you're here. You brought it to us. I really appreciate that. Scotty, introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, my name is Scott Gray. I'm been involved with Lutheran Men and Mission and our men's ministry here at Bethany for plus probably 13, 14 years. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wes?
And my name is Wes Ostrich. I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska, a member of Sheridan Lutheran Church. I've been involved with Lutheran Men and Mission for probably 30 years, basically since inception when the church synods combined, and participated in a 1 year delivery retreat about 3 years ago for my first time, and also been on staff once.
For those of you who don't know about the retreat, it's a 44-hour spiritual journey that was, inception was with Doug Haugen and written by Lyman Coleman. It's licensed through Lyman Coleman, and we use his protocols specifically. It is a lay-led environment, although we invite pastors. We just don't let them be pastors. Pastor Rob shaking his head. Anyone who comes to that event is a man. He's a man of a sinful man. He's got his own issues, his own plight, his own problems. We try and strive to create a safe place that the Spirit can meet him one-on-one. And that's the beauty of the retreat, and that's what keeps us coming back. So guys, let's talk a little bit about the personal involvement and the personal impact of 1 year to live. Wes?
Well, for me, 1 year to live was a retreat I'd heard about for a number of years, primarily through Brownie and Scott. I've been involved in a lot of men's retreats over the years. They're usually an overnight, and it's primarily about group fellowship and growing together in Christ and having a support group. The most impactful thing for me when I finally agreed to attend a 1 year to live retreat was that it's a large component of it took place for me personally. It's an opportunity to, as an individual, really step back, look at your current state of where you're at, open up in a very forgiving environment, but to be real critically open about some of your shortcomings and challenges and failures through the years, and be accepted for that, and let you analyze that as an individual. And through it all, you do become bonded and really part of a brotherhood of other Christian men who have seen your bare bones and forgiven you for who you are. But most importantly for me, it empowered me to forgive and accept myself as a child of God.
Awesome. Thanks, Wes. Scott?
You know, my involvement initially started just because I was seeking. I was newly married, didn't quite have our kids as of yet. Had just actually come back to the church with some of the challenges I had faced in my youth, my prior time. I believe the retreat itself, that process, and being able to, the two biggest fears that we have as men, and I had them back then, was I felt that I was alone in something that I was struggling with, or that it was too late or too early to do something about it. And what I found at the retreat was that safe place that I was seeking out to walk through a journey with other men that I found I had the same struggles, had the same challenges, same opportunities as I had, and were willing to model what they wanted me, how they wanted me to walk through a process, and a process to get to know myself, to get to know my brothers, and understand what's God's greater plan was for me and my family. It was life-changing. There's no question about it. It was that one safe place that's so hard to find. We as men, it's easier for us to compare and compete. We can talk about our favorite teams. We can talk about our favorite sports analogies. The reality is we don't take a step beyond that and truly connect. And this is that one opportunity to take advantage of it.
Yeah. For me, it was the personal invite of, well, it wasn't quite so personal. It was 4 of you guys ganged up on me at a table. Encouraged and said, you need to go to this retreat. And I said, really? And my wife looked at me and says, yeah, you need to go to this retreat. So with that encouragement, I went to the retreat for the first time. And I tell you, for me, it was a spiritual awakening. I've been involved in the church since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. My dad was highly involved in the church, so I was too. And I've always been involved. But as soon as I went to that retreat, all of a sudden, I felt, and I'm getting it right now, as Pastor Larry likes to say, the spirit bumps, right? I'm getting goosebumps to being able to sit here and talk to you guys about this, about the retreat. And the importance of it for me was the Spirit literally talked to me at the retreat. We had it out of Camp Kataki, and it overlooks the Platte River here in Nebraska. And I was on an Emmaus walk, and I just was on my own, and I'm sitting overlooking the river. The vista was fantastic, and I know Christ was sitting next to me with his arm around me saying, brother, you need to do this. Here's what you need to do. He gave me my mission at that point in time. I took that mission and I've grasped it and grabbed it with both hands, and I've been running with it ever since. I'm all of a sudden involved, as Scotty is also, in some men's ministry around here. We'll talk about some of that here in a minute. That you never would have, in my wildest dreams, I never would have thought I'd be involved with it. So let's take the next step. Let's talk a little bit about what does it mean to your church life? What's happened at church? Who wants to go first?
Well, for me, and this happened actually many years before 1 Year to Live really had even begun. I was actively involved with some men's ministry at my former congregation in Hickman. And one of the things we had started to do was an annual canoe trip. And it was on one of these canoe trips where there was probably about a dozen of us. We traveled out to western Nebraska to spend 2 nights and canoe down the Niobrara River. I had invited a close friend of mine from Lincoln, not a church member, but good friend of mine. And it was while we were on that trip that I received word that his wife had been severely injured in an accident in Lincoln. We immediately got the group of men together. We prayed for him. It's tough to break that kind of news to a friend of yours. A couple of us headed back. We had several God moments just on the way home, taking wrong turns and yet being redirected and so forth. But out of that sadness, what effectively happened is we created a shell of a brotherhood for those men. And that is very similar to the brotherhood that you can build within the 1 Year to Live. You've got people that are willing to be there for you at the toughest time in life. And at that occasion, I happened to be in a place where I was that person for my friend. And it's drawn us close together over the years. It's something you never wish to do, but it's a time that is extremely special and meaningful and very powerful. And that's what happens through men's ministry in a retreat environment where you bare your soul with a small group of men in a trusted environment.
You invite people in.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Invite others into your
Sometimes when you don't really intend to, he needed our help.
Agreed. Scotty?
I think when we first went on the retreat, the individuals, it was basically 4 or 5 guys that I now know was spirit-led, coming from 4 completely different seasons of life. You would never, ever put these 4 people in one room together. First of all, the room would explode. But second of all, it truly meant coming back from that retreat, each one of those individuals was able to identify his spiritual gifts and be able to have the confidence and the sense of pride and the sense of peace in his heart to go out and pursue what that specifically was in his individual life. But it also enabled those individuals to reach out and encourage others to come and experience the retreat, to have that opportunity to pay it forward. I think for our church, we had our men's ministry known as the Men of Bethany, affectionately known as the Mob. It's enabled us to continue to expand with God's guidance based on some of the things that were revelations that happened as part of that 44-hour journey and process. A couple of examples is just getting outside of ourselves and the missional outreach to take the same message that came from the retreat itself and some of our other material and resources down to the Douglas County Jail, to the God Mod, and provide the ministry to a very special and incredible ministry down there and be able to provide a resource. Then beyond that also to expand to the Open Door Mission. And then the amazing God moment was the fact that it came full circle around. And we were able to last year take 14 or 15 guys from the Open Door Mission on the retreat with us. They were able to be sponsored, and some of the messages, some of the sharing, some of the revelations that these men came through because they were in a supported, encouraging relationship was beyond inspiring, beyond imaginable. And so I love how it's continued to feed that circle of faith.
Agreed. And Scotty, we have, obviously we're both from Bethany. So, part of this, just to tag on to what church life has been here. And as past council members, we looked around and we looked at things from a little bit different perspective. And what we saw was the men's ministries that were happening and just the ministries in general. We started ticking off, that guy's been to the retreat. This guy's been to the retreat. This guy's been to the retreat. We all of a sudden started seeing that the foundation of all the ministries that were going on within the church, vast majority, were from guys that were past participants in the retreats. Then you have the guys that come back and they lead, right? It's lay-led. So we have folks coming back. Wes has led. First time was a leader last year. Scotty and I have led retreats all over the country for the last, 12 years, whatever it is. It's such an important ministry, and we have found again that it's foundational in nature. It allows you as a man to find your mission, find God's mission for you, and you pray over that mission. Yeah, you might change it from time to time. You might tweak it from time to time, but basically that's the Spirit saying, let me help you out just a little bit. Let me just give you a nudge and go down that right direction. Some of the things that we're doing also that Scotty really didn't talk about is he's actually moved out into the youth arena. So with the Hope Center downtown Omaha, reaching the disadvantaged young men in our community. Abide Church, or the Omaha Street School, we have another group of men, educators, that have actually said we need to do something about that. So they've reached out to the Omaha Street School, which is basically the last resort, court-ordered last resort for a number of these gangbangers and so forth. The most powerful thing you'll ever hear is when these guys come back and they talk to us. And they talked to me the other night and they said, Brownie, you're not going to believe what happened. This kid he's all hooded up, he's tatted up, he's got, he's sitting listening with his head down. We don't think we're getting to him. Week after week, 3 weeks, all of a sudden, the guys always try to have somebody pray out. They want one of the attendees to pray themselves out. And at the street school, this gangbanger said, "I'll do it." The guys were like, "Whoa." And he pulled his hood off. He stood up. He went to the front of the room, and he had the most fantastic prayer to pray those guys out. That's the impact of 1 year to live. That I give it all to that, because every guy down there is a 1 year to live person. All right, so that's kind of what the impact of the church. What about the impact of 1 year to live on your business life? I know you just retired, so that's
I'm freshly retired and loving it.
So, but before, did you find it impactful?
It impacted me from the standpoint that I was less critical, more accepting of my coworkers and the rest of the people in our company. Just kind of taking them where they're at and accepting that. It wasn't so much about an outward witnessing to them, but I think they all knew to a person that if they were in dire need of someone to talk to about a confidential or personal matter, that I was there. And I have had a few of them come and solicit my prayers for them at a time for need, or when one of them lost a child at birth, which was a very tough time. And as a company, we saw him through that. And some of that was because of my position, being the leader of that company at the time. But now that I'm retired, my main mission is to sustain the friendships and relationships that I've grown over the years. Enjoy doing that. It's helped me to be more confident in what I do through men's ministry at our church, just in facilitating a men's study group.
It's easier to talk to men now, isn't it, about your faith?
Yeah, I'm not too bashful about talking anyway. It's helpful.
It does. Scotty?
I think from a business standpoint, I think the word that comes to me is kind of balance. Understanding, those two worlds, your work life and your home life and your family life and your faith life. Yeah. And being able to balance those three tenets themselves. What it kind of taught me to focus on my faith life first, be able to feed my work life and my family life, and use that as kind of a guiding rod, if you will. I think it's enabled me or empowered me to encourage taking a leap of faith and leaving a position I was with for 14 plus years, and going a new direction. Even though it was a little bit of a challenge and there was some pain and some angst there, having that brotherhood to be able to lean on and get advice from and support around, enabled me to make that kind of informed decision that allowed me to continue down that path and focus on a vocation as opposed to just a job.
I think for me, I took that leap of faith a little bit differently than you did. My leap of faith was, I'm an IT guy, so I was consulting from 2010, and so I was moving every 6 months, every year, every couple of years to a different company, different job. And you do the interview process, and you kind of get tired of it. You kind of, what do you do in your personal life? What are your passions? Finally, I decided, you know what? I'm going to cut the BS. And I'm just going to say, what is your passion? My passion was 1 year live retreat and men's ministry. And I'm on a 3-hour phone call. It turned out 3-hour interview with the president of our company. He's in Atlanta. I'm in Elkhorn, Nebraska. We're talking, and he asked me that question, and I told him. And he said, and right after I told him that message, he went quiet, which is unusual for my boss. And he's a salesman. And so he tells me, he gets back on, he says, can you meet with the guys at the office in Omaha tomorrow? Yeah. Tomorrow was December 31st. I said, sure I can. So I met with them, and I stepped out again with that group, with the chief operating officer. And I said the same thing when asked about what do you do outside of work. And they asked me some more questions. Well, tell us more about it. Tell us more about it. And by 3:00 that afternoon, I was hired, and I started on the 2nd of January. And I've been there for now 4.5 years. And the beauty of it is my faith, Scott introduced me, my boss's name's Scott too. Scott introduced me in his cover letter as a man of faith. Never happened before. Scared me when I read that. I went, ooh, ooh, ooh. I felt like he put me up here a little bit higher standard, right? Now, I'm a blue collar railroad brat that learned how to cuss at 14 years old or less, right? And I can cuss in 5 different languages, and I do from time to time when things don't go my way. And it's really interesting at work when people walk in, they'll bring me problems now. They'll bring me opportunities. I got a beautiful opportunity to be with Fathers in the Park. I'm now a board member with them. Just because a lady brought her problems into me, she says, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? I mean, she would have never done that with any other exec, but she did it with me. And all of a sudden I got fired up because it's helping our North Omaha brothers reconnect with their absentee children. So it's basically the absent father wound that we deal with in our ministry. I'm like, yeah, I'm in. And it's been a godsend. It's been putting me in places I would never go. Never go to 24th and Lake and eat collard greens. They're awesome. I never did that. I mean, it's opened my horizons fantastically just because I shared my faith with my boss and at work. So enough of that story. So I encourage all of you to, out there in the ether world, as well as those of you in the room, if you haven't been to a retreat, please sign up.